Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Tim Larsen. We hope you enjoy today's movie discussion. Thanks for listening. My name is Tim Larsen. We're here to talk about movie number 202. It is 1978's Animal House from National Lampoon. We have some background information about National Lampoon. I'll wait to see if anybody else has that information, where it comes from. All I knew of it before watching this movie this week was that it was National Lampoon's Vacation and National Lampoon's Animal House. I never really knew the background, so I did some looking up for that. As I am the sergeant at arms of this conversation, and as you guys are pledging, I have decided to give you new names. You might want to type those in so people remember them. Aaron, your Delta Tau Chi name will be Spatz. That's Spatz. Brian, your Delta Tau Chi name is Spitfire. Matt, your Delta Chi name will be Hitch. And Dan, your Delta Tau Chi name will be Komodo. Mine will be the G. And I have names for Mike and Mike should they show up. At the end of this session, I will tell you how I came up with those names, unless you guys guess them when it's your turn to talk. The only hint you get, they are all subtle references to movies you have picked in the past. So with that in mind, we move on with Animal House.
Did I spell Komodo correctly, or is it something else?
You spelled it Camoto. You missed twice. It's Komodo, Komodo. You were trying to spell like cat moto. I don't know what that is. So Spatz, Spitfire, Hitch, and Komodo. If you're ready, here we go. Aaron has gone first a lot lately, and so we'll give him a rest. And we will start off with the conversation about Animal House with Spitfire. Spitfire, what do you got for us?
Why are you sorry? I don't even have to hear Aaron's laugh. Just seeing him laugh, it makes me laugh. I don't have a lot, guys. I'm sorry. It was a busy week, and I did watch the movie. Actually, finished it about a half hour ago, and was not in the mindset of watching National Lampoon's Animal House. It was a rough watch. I remember it being much funnier, but I'm gonna guess I was a lot more drinking at the times watching it before. Belushi, great physical comedian. And he did that in this movie over and over again with different times when they were taking the horse to Dean Wormer's office, and he, does a roll and looking around for whoever. Right. Just the D-Day, the guy who played D-Day, I can't think of his name right now. But I didn't realize it was him. I mean, that guy's been a dick in so many other movies.
He really has.
Yeah. It was like D-Day was always cool to me. For some reason, I just thought he was just kind of like a badass guy.
Bruce McGill is his name. Bruce McGill.
He was
Isn't he the dick that's the prosecuting attorney in My Cousin Vinny?
Yes.
He's the sheriff.
No, he's the sheriff. He's like on their side. He goes out and helps him, and he's like kind of excited.
He does in the end. Yeah, that's right.
He doesn't hate him. He's just being a cop.
That's right.
But he was in Reacher, the first season of Reacher. He was the mayor, I think.
He was also in Rizzoli and Isles for many years.
I didn't watch that one.
Christy watches it, so I watch it.
I should watch it. Angie Harmon's fucking good. Smoking hot.
Well, and the other one is from the first two seasons of NCIS.
Sasha something.
Yeah.
Sasha Alexander. Anyway, he was also in Last Boy Scout. He was the guy banging Bruce Willis's wife on the side. How good is my wife on your 4-knuckle scale? Anyways, I digress. movie's just a classic. It's got filled with classic lines. We could probably do those all night, over and over. I think we did for 10 minutes when she announced the movie.
Yeah.
So, but it was just one of those. When you were a kid, it made you think, "Boy, I want to go to college. This could be fun.
This is what college is like." Yeah.
So, but
did you watch
yeah,
it when you were a kid? How young were you, do you think, when you watched this?
I'd have to say 10, 15, somewhere in there, pretty young, seeing
I
it.
think the bourbon is appropriate
Having
this time.
having older brothers,
Mm-hmm.
actually, you saw a lot of movies that I probably shouldn't have as a kid. So,
Right. Well, the reason I'm asking this is because I remember going to your house in Dearborn, and you guys clearly had more liberties than I did at my house, because as we've brought up before, like, there's no way I'd have been able to watch this movie. And went over to your house, and I remember either you or your brothers in the first place watching Buddy Hackett do stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be watching this." And so you watched all kinds of movies that I wasn't allowed to. So that's why I was wondering if how young you remember seeing this, because
yeah,
it was for me, it was adulthood.
Yeah. One of the other ones we watched a lot early that didn't get the meaning of stuff going on. It was History of the World Part 1.
Okay.
The opening scene. I remember my mom and stepdad kind of looking at each other going like, should we be doing it? And they don't get it. So
Yeah.
But this is just a classic that never honestly doesn't get old. It was just the wrong day for me to watch it. I tried watching it over the weekend beforehand and just didn't have an opportunity. So great movie, classic, good pick. Look forward to seeing where Dan goes with it.
Who's Dan? Do you mean Komodo? Now
the names aren't still up, so I don't know.
Yeah, they are.
Not on my screen.
No, you can't see them.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
No.
And if you give yourself a name like the G, I'm going to ignore all of these anyways.
Well, I didn't tell you why I gave myself the name in the G, so I'll just say, why not? So a couple of interesting things about this movie. One, Belushi, it's really his first major role in a movie. He had been in a movie before, but it wasn't like a major role. And these actors are all like brand new. That's what's amazing to me about this cast. The guy, Tom Hulse, who plays Amadeus, plays Pinto. It's his second movie he's credited, first major role. Boone, Peter Riegert, who's in tons of movies. This is his first movie. Flounder, it's his second movie credited. Bruce McGill, D-Day, his first movie. Karen Allen, it's her first movie. And it goes on and on. They found an unbelievable amount of young actors who went on to do a whole bunch of things, whether it's because of this movie or they were on their way anyway. We'll never know, but that's just an amazing thing to me. And then I have a bunch of trivia things. So Brian, I thought I'd throw this one out because I'm sorry, Spitfire. I thought I'd throw this out because I thought you would appreciate this. The actors who were playing the Delta characters, just to stay in character, they harassed the Omega guys actors the entire time they were filming. Like they were mean girling them the whole time. And the one who played Nehemiah, he actually moved his hotel room to right above theirs because they partied all the time, and he wanted them to annoy him so that it'd be easier for him to get into character. And I think he did pretty well because Nehemiah is fucking outstanding in this movie.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I appreciate the effort, Brian. Sorry, we're in the mood for the Animal House, and I will follow your direction. We will go next to Komodo. What do you got to say, Komodo?
All right. Little interesting thing about Niedermeyer, he actually attended the University of Michigan
Oh, really?
for a couple years. Of course,
What an asshole.
Theater. I wasn't going there, but yeah, I didn't have an outlet to watch this until probably 85 or somewhere around there. I think that's when we got cable. Finally, It was around 85. But so, of course, I was too young to see it in theaters. So it was, maybe 85, 86, first time I saw this. I did not have a cousin where I could go over there and watch things that I wasn't allowed to watch at my house. Because my cousin was, his uncle was even strict. My uncle was even stricter than my dad. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, just tons of, one-liners from this movie. You could go on and on all day. But my favorite though really is the golf incident. Where
Of course.
yeah, it had to be that one. Where Niedermeyer's giving it to Flounder, and then I mean, what a great shot to nail the horse and then to nail him in the head with the second shot. I mean, that's perfect.
Hey, so trivia background on that. The guys that wrote it, it's what's his name? He wrote everything in the 80s. Harold Ramis, and Douglas Kenny and Chris Miller are the other guys that wrote this. But they took a lot of their like pledging years in college and antics from college and kind of put them into one story. And Belushi helped with that. I'm sure we can all imagine what Belushi was like in college. The golf scene was an actual scene. Like one of those writers, I don't think it was Ramis, it was one of the other guys, was remembering he actually was hitting golf balls at guys in a fraternity that he didn't like. So they actually took real shit and made that scene out of it. So kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. Chris Miller, was that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is based a lot. He went to Dartmouth and he said it was based a lot on his things that went on in Dartmouth, and they actually had a screening of the movie before it came out in theaters at Dartmouth, where they just had Dartmouth students watch it.
That's cool.
7 years down the drain, there's just so many great one-liners. Of course, we all heard Germans bomb Pearl Harbor. We've all heard that many times. But I looked up a few things. The singer that has Guitar Smash was Earl Stephen Bishop, and he was in a few John Landis movies. He was the charming guy in several of his movies. And let's see.
Those assholes using music to try and woo women. It never works. It never works. Do you know the trivia behind that scene?
I don't. I know after the scene, they did it twice, he said, and the second time he had everybody from the cast sign his smashed guitar after they did it the second time.
The first time was improvised. John Belushi just walked down the stairs and he just decided that his character would be pissed, grabbed the guitar and smashed it. So those reactions are from the actors, like, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
And he put a hole in the wall, and the fraternity framed the hole in the wall, and it's still there.
What was he supposed to just walk by?
I think he was just supposed to walk by or grunt at them or just look like he doesn't care what he's doing or something. But he decided to smash that guitar, and all those actors and actresses were like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Well, did you hear those? Did you hear those lyrics? Jeez, I'd smash the guitar too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for not having a whole lot of dialogue, Belushi was just great in this movie. Other than the Germans bomb Pearl Harbor scene where he, has a lot of dialogue there, but a lot of his is just, facial expressions and doing things like the smash guitar. And
since you brought that up, Komodo, in the garage scene, like he seems like he's actively not talking, almost like I don't know I didn't look up any behind the scenes, but it's almost like he was pissed at the director and not doing his lines. Like, did anybody notice that? Doesn't that seem oddly when he's like trying to get the guy to laugh or whatever?
Like when Flounder's really sad about the car,
he's doing shit, but he's not making a sound.
Right.
Which I thought was odd, and I've noticed it before. I don't know. I've just never heard anything about that scene. Anybody?
I don't know if that was planned or
did anybody
not.
else notice it, that it was weird that it stood out that he was not making,
it was kind of within character because a lot of times he just didn't talk or he had like one line, but it was a little odd. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And speaking of Belushi, he did improvise that whole food, the lunchroom scene. So those reactions from the actors were pretty genuine when he spit all his food all over him. But let's see. I looked up a little bit about Otis Day and the Knights. The actor's name was Dwayne Jesse, and sometime after this movie, he bought the rights to that name from the studio, Otis Day and the Knights, and he went on and kind of made a career out of it. He toured as Otis Day for a long time. He did come out with one album in 1989, appropriately named Shout, which flopped, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
What else we got here? And the three networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, for some reason, decided to come out with spin-offs of this on regular TV, broadcast TV. And they did half-hour comedies, and all three of them flopped, of course, because it's an R-rated, raunchy movie.
Yeah.
So you really can't put it on regular TV. Yeah, all of them premiered in January, February of '79. ABC's was called Delta House. It made it 13 episodes. NBC's was called Brothers and Sisters. That made it 12 episodes. And CBS's was called Co-Ed Fever, which made it 6 episodes before they were all canceled.
Wow. Solid effort.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's a classic. You know, a lot of stuff doesn't translate to today's world, you know, be considered inappropriate these days, but back then it was, you know, funny stuff. And I like it.
Yeah.
I liked it back then. You know, I don't know if I could say, you know, it's harder to like it now. A lot of stuff is a little cringe-worthy nowadays, but
yeah, like the 13-year-old girl, for example.
Yeah. But you know, I liked revisiting. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so good job.
All right, cool. Let's see. Well, I already gave you a piece of trivia there. Dan, as the elder, Komodo.
The elder statesman.
As the elder statesman here, do you know what National Lampoon was before it was attached to these movies?
It was a magazine. Yeah.
It was. I never knew that. And so PJ O'Rourke, who was either an owner or an exec there, he blames this movie for the decline and the inevitable fall of National Lampoon because as soon as this happened, all of their best writers went to Hollywood and started writing for movies and left National Lampoon, and they never made it. And most of those writers, other than Harold Ramis, never really made it either. So it like wasn't good for anybody other than, you know, the movie execs, you know, and the companies who made money off of all these movies, and Harold Ramis. Everybody else didn't work.
Yeah,
So,
National the magazine was really big on college campuses because the writers were all like recent grads of college, so they, you know, wrote a lot of stuff about college antics.
Yeah, that's what I read. All right, let's move on to Spats. Spats, what do you have to say? I dressed very sharply, very dapper today. Is that a sweater vest underneath that jacket?
It's all of it. It's what they wore. I mean,
man,
they dressed to impress, but with whatever they got from Goodwill in the 60s, it appeared.
Yeah.
I mean, shit kind of matched, but didn't like I'm wearing all blue. It's all blue.
All right.
But none of it goes together. So, and I put about 4 seconds into grabbing anything blue out of my closet. So,
well, nicely done, sir.
As far as the movie, wow, it was way better when I was 10 or 11. Doing the lines, way funner than watching it.
Yeah.
Brian had said something like, you know, classic or, you know, all time. I don't think it holds up at all. Like, I don't think it's an all time anything. It was hard to watch. And I never picked up that the girl I saw it on HBO when I was real young. You know, we had cable, we had HBO. Probably 10 or 11. Watched it maybe once or twice the whole time through since then. Probably in my 20s. So that's even going on 30 years ago. And wow, this time it was brutal. Never realized that the girl working at the grocery store was 13.
Mm-hmm.
I never picked up on her saying that on it wasn't until the very end on the football field, right?
Right.
When I'm assuming they still had sex.
Yeah, because he said we got to get married.
Right. Yeah. So
kind of only one reason you say that.
Thus. Yeah, the lines are much better.
Who goes to meet the dad? I mean, what idiot?
Yeah.
I mean, either
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Date. I mean, right?
Either you're hiding the body, or you just disappear.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor. I knocked up your 13-year-old daughter. Nice to meet you.
Plus,
not even,
how do you know they wouldn't know she's knocked up? I mean, it happened an hour ago.
Right. But
right.
He's a good Christian and is going to marry her because he deflowered her.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And,
yeah.
I mean, I guess he gave her his flower too. So
yeah. Young love. It's all about young love right there.
No, they got a lot of Catholic priest molestation jokes right there, but I'm gonna let him go. I'm gonna let him go.
He didn't become a priest. He became the
oh, man. Hitch, it's gonna be okay. Hitch, stay with us, Hitch. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I really D-Day. I had looked away for a second and he spoke and I knew who he was, like even at that age in his 20s.
Oh, without seeing him. You just
heard the voice. That's when I was like, oh my God, I know who that is. And I looked it up and I was like, yeah, I watched him weekly for a couple of years. But I mean, it was worth the watch just to see it again and remember all the one-liners. The one-liners will hold up and they'll always be funny, and I won't tie him to this. It was just kind of sad. I'm not going to say it was the worst thing I ever watched. Mike's not here, we can't talk about Winnie the Pooh. But I'm not going to stop doing the one-liners because they're great and they'll always be great. But as far as the movie itself, it was incoherent at times. And things I don't think they really cared about making sense. Flounder.
They did not care about making sense. They didn't care about transitions. They didn't care about making. You're absolutely right.
Flounder showing up with his steady girl, that seems like he must have been dating her for a long time. But then they go to the girls' campus, and he's ready to pick up a chick and hope he gets lucky. And it's like, what is going on? Just to make that bar scene happen, like that whole side quest didn't make sense for anything.
Right. The road trip.
Other than to, I guess, cheer him up. But then to give the other steady girlfriend time to nail her professor. So I guess maybe that's why they had to leave town for the night. But
it was a plot device. This is a very well-crafted plot device.
Trying to put it all together. Why the band does not just turn around in the alley.
Right. Right.
It's silly things and it's National Lampoon. And I think they were working out the kinks. They obviously, the guys who wrote this figured it out. Because they had some winners, they had some stinkers too, but they've had some winners. But I'm reluctant to say I'm glad I watched it, but I guess I am glad I watched it because now I know it doesn't hold up and I probably don't need to see it again. It's much better in my memory and I like it. I like it there. So
sure.
But
yeah, so let me ask you this, genre wise. This is 1978 where slapsticky comedy is still kind of cool. And this is a almost like teenage, maybe just past teenage angst movie. And as a hybrid, I think there's too much slapsticky stuff in here. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree with that?
I think I'd probably disagree.
Okay.
So are you considering like the slapsticky stuff, like push-ups next to a turd, or Bluto swinging across the street on the sign, like goofy? Are you considering slapstick like goofy physical comedy?
Goofy physical comedy, like the golf ball in the soup.
Yeah.
The band going to the wall and not turning back. Like some of that is just so stupid that
Yeah,
it's
so
unbelievable, and it's just I don't know. I think of that as the slapsticky stuff, whereas all of the purposeful practical jokes versus the other guys is more of the angst, you know.
okay,
So it suffers for plot because, as you put it, I think pretty well, they just didn't care.
right. Yeah, I'd say okay. So I think they could pull back about 50% of the slapsticky stuff. Were
Right.
So it was overdone, but I thought some of it was good. So I can't say, you know, in the 70s they should have not been doing this. I didn't hate it all. So
Yeah, and then the end. The over the top ridiculous end of this movie is a theme for a lot of comedies in the late 70s, early 80s. Because think of the end of Blues Brothers. It's a fucking roadmap for these movies, right?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
let's see how ridiculous we can get. And I'm tired of that, but at the time, apparently,
Yeah, it was brand new. It was like,
it was revolutionary.
Blazing Saddles was the same way.
Right.
So yeah, it was cutting it. It was the new trope at the time. It was brand new and everybody did it. And after everybody did it, everybody was sick of it. So
Yeah, and they were geniuses at the time, and here we are going, ugh, for God's sake.
right.
Okay, so my piece of trivia for you, is part of the reason I decided to come up with Delta Tau Chi names. There was a scene that was deleted, and it was when Flounder was about to be accepted into the Delta House. They told him he could only be accepted if he admitted or gave up some of the secrets from Tom Hulce's character. He had to give up some kind of secret about him, or they wouldn't let him in. And apparently, he yells out, "He's got spots on his weenie." And then when they go through the names, they give him the name Pinto. He's like, "Why is my name Pinto?" And everybody apparently yells, "Because you have dark spots on your weenie." So that's why he gets named Pinto, which I think is great. I mean, you don't need it. If they got to cut something, you can cut it, but it makes the thought into the nicknames make a little more sense for me. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Aaron, for the honesty.
Was there a question in there? I thought you were got me, or you were just giving me trivia.
I'm just giving trivia. Yeah, that
Oh.
kind of goes along with. My question is, are you warm wearing all those layers?
No, I've got the door open. It's 60 degrees out. So, and I'm wearing shorts. So,
Like a newscaster. That's great.
yeah,
That's
Zoom
I have
great.
no
call,
pants
Jim.
on.
Come on,
You
G.
hope I'm wearing shorts.
Don't stand up.
All right. Well, how are we gonna do the guess about the names? Because
You can guess right now if you want.
All
you know
right.
what?
Well, movies we picked. You had said that. So
Right.
Spats, the gangster from Some Like It Hot.
It is the gangster from Some Like It Hot.
The G. Are you the Guardian?
From The Guard. It is from the movie The Guard.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give that one away. It's the hotel that he takes the hookers to.
Oh yeah.
It's called the G.
Okay. Nice. I thought it was The Guard. I thought you were going with that. Brian, am I on the right track? Or sorry, Spitfire.
Mhm.
Am I on the right track with Silver Linings Playbook? Yes or
Well,
no?
I don't know. Tim gave
I like
me
you're
the
trying to
name.
help Brian out. That's nice. Well, he's asking if that trips
No, I'm
anything up
asking
for
you,
or-
Tim.
Oh yeah. No.
Am I on the
Different
right?
movie.
I'm not on the right track.
Nope.
Oh, because I was gonna go with She's a Spitfire in Silver Linings Playbook.
Mhm.
So I know I was kind of reaching on that one. Hitch is clearly because Will Smith is Matt's favorite actor. No.
No.
Okay.
That's wow. That's clearly not even close.
I don't know how they're laying off ones that are this close.
And then Komodo.
I had no idea. I got nothing. I
Okay.
got nothing for that. So at least I got mine.
You did.
Right.
And you were pretty close to mine. You had the
Okay.
right movie.
I had the right movie.
Easier for you because there's not that many movies to choose from. Whereas these guys, these are the OGs. There's a whole page. Like,
Oh, I've got the spreadsheet open, 2 averages, looking at everything everybody picked.
so we'll take that as a transition right on over to Hitch himself, who loves Will Smith. And
Apparently.
I notice you're still flashing the buddy tape on the fingers. How's that feeling right now? And how's the husband shaming going from your wife?
Oh, it's going great. Yes. For those of you who did not hear that story, my wife was very pleased that I went to the doctor and paid money for them to tell me the same exact thing she told me to do for my fractured finger. So I have not heard the end of it.
Did she not want you to go to the doctor and just buddy tape it and listen to her?
Well, she wanted me to do that 2 weeks before I went to the doctor.
Right, which I understand saying, hey, buddy tape, but you still go to the doctor.
Correct. If it wasn't better. Yeah. So her thing was we could have done it a month ago and you didn't. So you're done.
Oh, I see. So her plan was you should have listened to her at the time, buddy taped at the time. It might have healed on its own.
Right. Because I waited a month to go to the doctor. Yes.
I disagree with Brian because we all know there's nothing you can do for a broke finger. There's nothing you can do for broke ribs. I feel like I totally wasted money going to a doctor getting x-rayed for my broke ribs. And they were like, try not to laugh,
which is not easy for you.
No.
Yeah.
So I would have totally taped my fingers.
So quit drinking is what they're saying.
It's the only thing that helps though.
Yeah.
That's what I did with my broken toe. I went to the doctor and they taped it together.
Yeah, that's Tim said Nikki had quite the experience as well.
She did. Yep. She had her pinky toe separated and they had to buddy tape that together. And we talked about this last time. Brian and I left her behind in a parking lot trying to get to tip off.
Oh, that's right.
Wow, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not just you, Dan. He leaves everyone behind.
Dan, I've never left you behind. Name once. It'll take him a while. I'm sorry, Komodo. Name once. It'll take him a while. Carry on, Hitch.
All right. I've always liked this movie. So I'm one of the young ones here. I can't remember the first time I saw this. It had to be in the 90s though, because I was born in 82. So my guess is I did not see this before the age of 12 or 13. But my guess is when I was in college, it was a regular thing because I think they did the 25th anniversary edition, which would have been 03, and I was still in college in 03. So this was on a regular rotation in our house, in our apartment. Quoting it all the time. I remember the college shirts being very popular, where it just says college, the one that Jim Belushi wears. That was like one of the most popular shirts when you were at college. It was very strange. And I think also I probably watched this movie the first time because I was a big Farley fan and everyone and their mother compared Farley to Belushi.
Yeah.
The Saturday Night Live, the weight, the drugs, the death, like everything. It was like because that's what Chris Farley wanted. He wanted to be Belushi, right? That was his big downfall. So I think I probably watched this movie the first time because people are like, "Oh, if you like Farley, you'll like Belushi." And I had seen some old Saturday Night Live stuff, but I can't remember the first time I saw this. Anyway,
hang on. So Hitch, you just brought up that comparison, and like to me, looking at one of the things I thought about this movie, watching that same thing you were talking about, comparisons to Farley, I'm like, he's not that fat. Like
he's really not.
Like, he's not a big guy compared to like Farley.
But they talk about like in 78, that was what they talked about. Like, oh, he's a large man doing physical comedy. I think times have changed in 30, 40 years, 50 years now, right? It's almost 50 now, right? So yeah, no, I'm totally with you. But like Farley was a large man, like large, like legendary stories about his order when they went out and all that stuff. And
well, when he performed, like Belushi was nuts, like physical comedy nuts on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was Farley, but Farley was started sweating like he was going to explode. Where
Yeah.
Belushi just looked frantic.
Yeah. Yeah. So always enjoyed this movie. I agree with everyone. Like it's a little nonsensical. But you're not watching it for the plot, right? I mean, let's be honest. Like no one's watching this movie for the plot. It's the one-liners and it's the partying and there's boobs and other great stuff in it too for us, boys to watch.
Matt,
So
she's 13 years old. Come on,
okay,
man.
first of all, she's 19.
She was 19. I looked that up too.
Let's just get all that
Matt was
out.
very prepared. Very
I'm a
prepared for
teacher,
that one.
Matt. You teach high
Yeah.
school. Come on.
Mandatory reporter here.
19. She was 19.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you did that research.
But the rest of the cast was 30, so that was still weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true. No, but I think a couple of my favorite parts, I love just the simple grab a brew. It don't cost nothing. I just know that's always been a good one.
Yeah.
When he's pulling the car into the garage, he's like, "Yep, come on," and it crashes, and he's like, "Up, good." We quote. I don't know. Me and my roommate thought that was hilarious. We quoted that all the time. Like, "Yep, yep, yep." Oh, good. That's funny. May we dance with your dates? I love that scene. And they run out. They just
that
leave
accent
the girls.
is that's a sensitivity warning, Matt, for that accent
Yeah,
in
I
2024.
I actually like how he went Southern with it and
He
not
did,
urban.
yeah, he did.
And they just leave the girls there. They just leave them there. Like, good luck in this bar that you're clearly the minority in. Go.
Yeah, that's really, of all things and all antics in this movie, that's the morality litmus test right there. They left those girls, got in the car, and took off. That's where you know what kind of people you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Well, the one chick was about to bang her dead roommate's fiance.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Out of pureness of heart, Aaron. Out of pureness of heart.
He was so
helping him.
Yeah, she actually left him because she jumped out of the car.
That's true. That's true. No, it's a fun movie to watch. I did fall asleep watching it once, but I've seen it so many times. It's probably why. Like I knew, this movie led me directly to watch one of my all-time favorite movies of all time, which is PCU, which was always billed. It was always billed as like the new Animal House, and it really wasn't. Like I don't think it was, but still a quality movie on its own. Will go down in history as one of my favorite movies all time. So there's that. Yeah, like you guys said, there's not a ton to talk about because it's not a movie making spectacular, right? There's no cinematography to talk about. The script writing isn't
aspect
amazing.
ratio.
Right. There's really nothing movie to talk about.
Character arcs.
Yeah, right.
Well, talk about the music in the movie, man.
Music is good. It's very rock and roll and young and hip. Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Why am I talking about the music?
Well, I was just trying to help. You said there wasn't much to talk about.
Yeah.
Here is I'm going to hit you with a trivia thing.
Okay.
Just since I brought it up and interrupted you. Belushi, a known partier, while he stayed in town instead of going back to New York to film Saturday Night Live, when he stayed in town, he went to all the nightclubs in the area and found and fell in love with, let me see if I can find the guy's name. Curtis Salgado was a dude that was in the bars in this area this is Oregon, I believe. University of Oregon, who would wear sunglasses, play the harmonica, and preferred up-tempo blues music. Belushi came up with the character for Blues Brothers while going out to nightclubs on the set of this movie. And think about the music that they had at Delta, Louie Louie and Wooly Bully and stuff like that was unwittingly setting the stage for a similar but much bigger movie.
Yeah, classic. The University of Oregon, I read that a little bit. They sent the script to a ton of colleges and everybody said no except them. But the only reason they said yes is because they passed on The Graduate. And The Graduate was a huge hit. And the guy's like, well, we can't pass on another movie. And so his only requirement was they didn't use the name of the college because he didn't want to be associated. But apparently now it's a claim to fame for the university. Like, yeah, they recorded Animal House
Oh,
here.
who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Oh
Right.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, Belushi wasn't even like he didn't even get to hang out with the other cast members. Like he stayed off site while they all got to party,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting.
That was John Landis. He made him rent a house like 5 miles away,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
rest of the guys were right next to the set.
And then I totally forgot until I looked at her, and I've seen this movie 100 times, and I looked Katie, but I don't know the actress's name.
I got it.
And
Karen Allen is her name.
yeah, and I like looked at I've seen her a million times. I'm like, man, she looks familiar. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark
I was gonna
Right.
say,
That's what I was gonna.
400 times.
She's
And
in the
Maybe.
Sandlot too.
Yeah.
Anyway, the I'm like, and it took me until this watching to go, hey, I think she's in that movie with the guy with the idiot. But it took me a long time to figure that out.
Don't we all have those moments though? Every now and then you
just-
look at something, you're like, how the fuck did I
How
not
did I
know
miss
that?
this? How did I miss
Yeah.
this? I thought there was something else, but I can get to it later. But yeah, no, it's fine. It's a great. I love that it's the Kevin Bacon pick because he's in it for a total of
Right.
6 minutes. And the funniest thing, I mean, other than getting the paddle, like
Thank you, sir.
all
May I
is
have
well.
another?
Remain calm.
Right.
All is well.
And then
All is well.
that would be a cheesy slapstick of him getting run over, and they have him embedded
Mhm.
into the concrete with
And
his
he's
head.
flat. Yeah, that was kind of weird. But
Yeah.
all Lampoon, I mean, even Christmas Vacation, the end of Christmas Vacation is like they go kidnap his boss and bring him to the like that's a little slapsticky. The end of regular National Lampoon's Vacation, they're storming the amusement park, right? I've never seen European Vacation, so I can't speak to that one. But like all those movies, it's just dumb stuff that happens at the end that kind of just they need to get done with the movie, right? Yeah, so anyway, I thought I had something about Landis, but I'll probably think of it later. So yeah, good pick.
Okay. So I got a couple of things to close up here, and then we can move on to Komodo's pick for the beginning of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. In the first place, let's talk about these nicknames. Hilty was going to be Skybird, and Mike Wilden was going to be Easy Breezy. And here are all of your connections. Aaron, you had it correct. You're the gangster from Chicago, and Some Like It Hot. Brian Spitfire is the name of a car. The 1967 Triumph Spitfire is the red convertible that Reggie Cray buys for Francis in Legend. Badass looking car. Hitch, Matt, you picked Sideways, and the restaurant they keep going to is the Hitching Post. Komodo, Dan Rodrigue, who is one of the bad guys in April in the Extraordinary World. They are Komodo dragons that are riding around on those robots.
God, I should have thought of that one.
Hilty's Skybird. I went car again at the beginning of The Nice Guys when Misty Mountain drives that car through the house. That car is a 1977 Pontiac Firebird Skybird. And Easy Breezy is my favorite one for Wilden. Too bad he wasn't here. When in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio sits down next to the girl, and she's reading a biography of Walt Disney. He's reading just a goofy Western thing that he apparently is in. They put him in as a character. The main character in that book, his name is Easy Breezy, and he is a Bronco buster. So he trains horses like wild horses. He tames them. So there are our nicknames. Let me run through my trivia stuff here. Here's the thing for me is I watched this movie as an adult because it was on TV, or, late teen because it was on TV. And the censoring for movies to put them on TV, nobody gave a fuck about anything. Like they would just have actors' mouths move and then, put in like overdub words that made no sense whatsoever.
Strike this guy out.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even remember the first time I actually watched this all the way through, start to finish, without it being censored. That may have been when I watched it this time.
So you didn't know there was boobies in it?
No, I knew that too, but I don't know if I ever saw the whole thing start to finish. You know what I mean? So let's see. Aaron, you brought up the scene in the garage when he's trying to cheer Flounder up. Apparently, he had to smash that beer can on his forehead 18 different takes because the actor who played Flounder burst out laughing every time he did it, and they had to keep retaking that scene, which I'm sure Belushi loved. Kevin Bacon was not allowed to sit with the rest of the crew at the premiere because he couldn't convince the ushers that he was actually in the movie. So they made him sit in the back. Love that. Karen Allen's butt scene. She did not want to be nude in this movie, and she had reservations and was like, "Look, I don't want to do this." And Sutherland heard about this and said, "You know what? I'll tell you what, I'll do it as well if she'll do it." And she was like, that was such a nice gesture from an accomplished actor that I decided to hell with my reservation. So they both did it. Oh, this is great. I love this. The cast of the Deltas accepted some invites from college girls to go to a frat party. So these actors got invited from a bunch of college girls, went to a frat party, and literally got in a fight with a bunch of drunk football players. They were like, what are these guys doing here? So the cast actually got in a fight at a frat party while filming this movie. And Belushi wasn't there. So when he showed back up and heard about it, they had to stop him from going back to the fraternity and pick fights with other guys. D-Day was written for Dan Aykroyd, but he couldn't do it. And as I've said before, I'm not that big of an Aykroyd fan, so I'm actually glad that that other guy played D-Day. Harold Ramis wrote Boone for himself. He wanted to be a part in the movie, and Harold Landis told him, "No, man, you're too old. You can't pull this off. You're not you." And he was 32 at the time, which But the guy who played Boone, I can't think of his name at the time. The dude from Oscar and everything else. He's 29, so he's only 3 years younger. So Landis offered Harold Ramis another part, and he was so pissed he refused to take it. The boy who is in the bed when the playmate dressed up girl crashes into the window and says, "Thank God," ended up being a minister in Oregon. And the newspaper article about it says, "Lucky boy is still thanking God." It's one of my favorites. Toga parties became a rage again in the 80s. I think other than Matt, we all remember that. And they picked the time in the 60s because they looked at it as when Kennedy got shot, that was the end of the innocence of America, and they wanted this film to be placed in that time frame. And so the parade that they actually had the floats in is the date they give that in the script is the day before Kennedy gets shot. And they actually had a bust of Kennedy on one of the floats, and they took that down saying that's too on the nose and people might get offended. So there's a whole bunch of trivia stuff about the movie. I like it a lot. I'm with you guys. I think the greatness of this movie has to do with a historical perspective. At the time, this was a monster, and I think it set the stage for Stripes and Caddyshack and Blues Brothers and Ghostbusters. And I think that's the greatness of this movie. On the rewatch, it's kind of, yeah, all right, I've seen it, I get it, but I think it does have its place on the timeline of helping out other movies be better. So thank you guys for your patience with going on the Wayback Machine there. And we go to Dan Sears, the artist formerly known as Komodo. Hang
on. You're going too fast. Matt, you go. You got a question?
I did remember my Landis thing. He did one of the parts of Twilight Zone movie.
Yeah, he did.
And Niedermeyer is mentioned again. In that part of it, there's soldiers talking about how they shouldn't have killed their lieutenant, Lieutenant Niedermeyer. No, that's great. That's so great. So perfect. Because at the end of the movie, it says killed by his own troops in Vietnam. I thought that was really good.
That's great.
And this kind of ties in the G. Can we just call you G?
Sure.
All right. I had to take a piss. And you had just started talking about the era of the 60s. But anyway, so another thing, continuity area, whatever you want to call it, or I don't, Brian, you military background, with their pledging and then they're in, I'm assuming ROTC, and then they're not anymore after the stable, it was either very hit or miss what they were showing us. Like we all said, the continuity wasn't a thing, but like you can't just get out of ROTC. Is that a thing you sign up for, Brian? Do you know? Does anybody else know?
I think it depends on the program. If you sign up for like Army Reserves and then go to the college for the Reserve Officer Training Candidate, is what our OTC is. If you sign a contract to do that, then yeah, that's one thing. But like, I know there was ROTC in high school, at least at when I went to, and that was kind of like, it didn't lead to anything. So
kind of join a group. It looks good on a resume.
Yeah, that's kind of what I took that one for. And plus, I don't think Flounder would have got in anyways, just on
right.
the weight.
What is that?
So, because they do.
But
that.
I mean, they need the
send
scene
fat
for
people
the
home
for the
basic training.
pledge pin. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the most iconic lines, out of the 100 of this movie. But yeah, I was just, that never thought of it before watching it this time. I'm like, so they were just pledging a fraternity, but now they're in ROTC.
Mhm.
And then other than Flounder shoveling the stables, they never mention it again.
Right.
About
They
Nina Meyer owning them.
they don't. And the other dude, Greg,
Yeah.
whatever his name is, the one that's always getting the hand jobs in the car.
Mhm.
He doesn't do the ROTC stuff, right? He's in the Omega,
No.
but
No.
he's not part of the ROTC. But Kevin
Yeah,
Bacon
that's
is.
just Nina Meyer.
Isn't Kevin Bacon in there too, though?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
uniform
he
at
was,
the end,
Yeah. So yeah, they don't explain any of that, and
No.
I don't know.
I
I
did
kind of like that,
appreciate-
and I get both sides of that.
I did appreciate taking all the minorities and the disabilities at the Omega House and putting them in the corner. I thought that was funny. Oh, come over here, you guys. Yeah.
And then they just
They
keep
have a lot to
herding
talk
them
about.
back over there.
Keep bringing them back over. Have you
Yeah.
met?
Yeah, we've met.
I already
They
met
have a
them.
lot to talk about.
Yeah.
What to talk about? Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I knew it looked like Matt had something to say. I had
Yep.
the thing. Proceed.
No, it's good. I usually ask. I'm sorry. Any other comments on Animal House? All right. Then, as I said before, we will go to Dan Sears, the artist formerly known as Komodo. Dan, your job is to connect your movie within 6 moves to Animal House. What do you got for us?
All right. So this movie I decided to do, getting towards Halloween here, so do a little scary type movie. So I went I assume you want me to go through the whole spiel here about how I
fuck
got
yeah,
to
you
it.
better.
So we got I went with the guy who made the most money in Animal House, Donald Sutherland.
Okay.
I think his salary is something like 50,000. So Donald Sutherland in Animal House, and he was in JFK also with Joe Pesci. And then Joe
Everybody was in,
Pesci,
we could use JFK. Every one of you guys could use JFK without trying real hard.
yep. And then Joe Pesci was he was in all the Lethal Weapons, but he was mainly in, I think it was Lethal Weapon 2 with Mel Gibson. And then next we've got Joaquin Phoenix, who was in Signs with Mel Gibson. And then I think Brian will appreciate this. Then I went to the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix was in the Joker. Is it Adu? Is that the
Wait,
new
are
one?
we going to the movie theater this week? Are you playing the card?
That's the last one before I get to the movie that I'm doing.
Okay.
So Joker, it's a full Adu with Catherine Keener. And so I'm going off Catherine Keener, and she was in the movie Get Out. So that's what we're doing.
Peele. Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele movie, yep.
that'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Hey, we are partnered with the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. Please stop by and enjoy some of their excellent material. And have yourselves a good week.